In the dead of night, high above the Atlantic, Air France Flight 447 vanished without a trace. No distress call, no warning. One moment, a routine flight, the next, gone. The world was left with a chilling silence and a mystery. Where was the plane, and what happened to the 228 people on board? The ocean offered no clues, no wreckage, no answers. On May 31, 2009, Flight 447 departed Rio de Janeiro for Paris, a modern Airbus A330 with experienced pilots and a standard flight plan. Everything was normal as the plane climbed to cruising altitude. The last contact came as the aircraft entered a radar gap over the Atlantic. Routine, nothing unusual. Suddenly, a series of automated error messages began arriving at Air France's maintenance center, hinting at cascading system failures. Then, silence. The plane disappeared from all screens. A desperate search began across the vast ocean. Days later, debris confirmed the worst. The plane was lost. But how could a modern airliner simply fall from the sky without a word? Without the black boxes, investigators had almost nothing to go on. The truth was buried 2.5 miles beneath the ocean's surface. Even in an age of technology, nature and human error can still lead to disaster. The mystery of Flight 447 had only just begun. As Flight 447 crossed the Atlantic, it entered the Intertropical Convergence Zone, home to powerful thunderstorms. The pilots adjusted course to avoid the worst of the weather, but unknowingly flew into a patch of high-altitude ice crystals. These invisible crystals clogged the plane's pitot tubes, which measure airspeed. Suddenly, the airspeed indicators became unreliable, and the autopilot disengaged, handing control to the pilots. In the dark, with alarms blaring and no clear airspeed, confusion took over. The co-pilot at the controls instinctively pulled the nose up, exactly the wrong move. The plane began to climb steeply, losing speed. The automated systems, partially disabled, could no longer protect the aircraft. The pilots were flying blind, surrounded by turbulence and conflicting warnings. The initial problem, iced pitot tubes, would have resolved in less than a minute, but the pilots' reaction had already set disaster in motion. In the chaos, they didn't realize the true nature of the emergency. The machine needed human help, but the humans were overwhelmed. The stage was set for catastrophe. With the nose held high, the A330's speed dropped dangerously low. The wings lost lift, a classic aerodynamic stall. The engines worked, but the plane was falling. The computers triggered a stall warning. Stall! Stall! A direct order to push the nose down. But the pilots, confused by intermittent alarms and unreliable instruments, kept pulling back. The captain returned to chaos, but the plane was already in a deep stall, plummeting almost vertically. In darkness with no visual cues, the crew didn't realize how dire the situation was. For nearly 4 minutes the airliner fell, engines running, controls responsive, yet the nose stayed up. All they needed was to lower the nose, but stress and confusion blinded them. Only in the final seconds did a pilot realize, "I've had the stick back the whole time." It was too late. The plane struck the ocean with immense force. The mystery deepened. How could this happen to a modern jet? The search for Flight 447's wreckage was one of the most challenging in aviation history. Initial efforts found only scattered debris. The black boxes were lost in the deep. For nearly 2 years the ocean kept its secrets. In April 2011, advanced underwater vehicles finally located the main wreckage and the flight recorders, 13,000 feet down. Miraculously, the data was intact. The recorders revealed the sequence pitot tube icing, autopilot disconnect, pilot confusion, and fatal stall. The cockpit voice recorder captured the crew's struggle, confusion, alarms, and missed cues. The crash wasn't a single failure, but a chain of small errors and human factors. The final report concluded, a minor technical issue, compounded by confusion and incorrect pilot response, led to disaster. The crew's lack of situational awareness and failure to recognize the stall sealed the fate of Flight 447. The tragedy exposed critical gaps in training and cockpit communication. The answers were heartbreaking, but vital. The world finally understood what happened that night. The loss of Flight 447 changed aviation forever. It exposed the risks of over-reliance on automation and the need for strong manual flying skills. Airlines and regulators overhauled pilot training, emphasizing upset recovery and stall recognition. Pitot tubes were redesigned to resist icing, and cockpit warnings were improved for clarity. The tragedy sparked a global conversation about the balance between humans and machines. Pilots must remain engaged, ready to take control when automation fails. The 228 lives lost led to safety improvements that protect millions today. Flight 447's story is a somber lesson in humility, vigilance, and the need for continuous learning. Technology is powerful, but the human element remains critical. The mystery was solved, but the lessons endure. In the skies, safety is never taken for granted.